Hey everyone, I'm Razr,
And I'm Karen.
and today in our world, we're installing a RetraxPRO MX tonneau cover on our new 26 Silverado pickup. So if you watch some of our previous videos, we were trying to figure out what our next camping rig might be. And we were back and forth between a Super C and a fifth wheel, and we finally made a decision. And you can probably figure out what that decision was because we have a brand new pickup truck here. So we were looking around trying to find a tonneau cover, and I was always curious what tonneau cover meant because it didn't seem to be an English word, so I looked it up. And I didn't even tell Karen this, but tonneau actually comes from France. It's a French word, and the first cars had exterior seating on the back of them, and that seating was kind of curved. And tonneau in French actually means cask or barrel. So that's kind of why they, because the cars had these round curved seats in the back, that was called the tonneau. So a tonneau cover was the leather cover that went over those seats to protect it from the rain. And then it kind of got picked up here in America. Some of the first cars they were using to race with, the old hot rods, had those, I think we used to call them rumble seats, is what my father used to call them. But to improve aerodynamics, they would put covers over top of those seats in the back, to make them more aerodynamic. So that's kind of how we got to calling them tonneau cover. Now, I always thought tonneau cover was a soft cover, which I think originally it was because it was leather. So what we got is actually a hard rolling cover. So I think it's more aptly called a bed cover, but I guess you can still call it a tonneau cover. So I was looking around for different ones, and we decided that we wanted that we're going to go with a rolling cover. It's aluminum. It will actually support 500 pounds of weight, and it's much more secure than just a leather or pleather, whatever these fabric ones are, I'm not sure. And it's not one of the folding ones. I didn't want that because when it was folded up against the rear of the cab, it actually got kind of thick. And, to be pulling a fifth wheel, I didn't want that thick part at the front of the bed for when we would turn. So that the rolling cover that we got, it actually rolls into a canister that's right behind the cab of the truck. So it doesn't get any higher when you roll it up. It stays the same level, which is basically flush with the top of the bed rails in the back. So that's kind of why I started to look at the rolling hard tonneau covers. And then I started to look at the different kinds that were available, and most of the rolling aluminum hard ones, the cover just slides in a track. It doesn't have any rollers or anything on it. So you got to keep that lubricated and clean, otherwise that cover isn't going to roll in and out very nicely. So I kept checking around, and I ended up finding what's pretty much, I think, the most expensive one on the market for a rolling cover. But I'll show you why I think it was worth the extra cost, and that's, basically one of the reasons is it actually has bearings. It has ball bearing rollers that the cover rolls back and forth on, so it should roll really nicely. So what we ended up getting, and this we are not sponsored by anybody. We paid full price for this cover. It's a RetraxPRO MX. I forget like we said before, we'll put the link to it down below. But the other variety has a track built into the side. The track it lays on the side rails of the truck. There's a T section in there that you can actually put bike racks and different things on over top of the cover. We're never going to do that because of pulling the fifth wheel. So it wasn't worth it to us to get that. I like the cleaner look of just the flush one without that track in. So that's why we went with the MX. Our truck is a 26 Silverado, and we have a full 8-foot bed. And so I was looking around, where we're going to get this thing now, and we actually found the best deal at, I think it's tonneaucovered.com. We'll put the link to that down below as well. It's not one of the big mail order companies. So, I had some concerns about dealing with someone like that, but we contacted them. They sent us a bunch of emails, reminders, because I took a while making our mind up. But in the end, we got a hold of them. They seemed like good people. I felt comfortable, with the communication we had with them. We ordered this cover on Monday morning, and it was at our door Friday morning. So a couple of days time, it was here.
Good service.
So it was good service, and like I said, we like dealing with them. I'm happy, and hopefully, if we have warranty issues, they'll be just as good to deal with. So we'll have to see about that. The cover arrived, and we'll open it up here. I haven't even opened it up yet. Not sure about the condition. The box looks like it was handled a little roughly. No giant dings in it, but it has some of the straps are already tore off of it, and tape but I don't see any major dinges, so we're hoping it isn't damaged. Do you have anything you want to add?
Just that we are going to show you our truck in another video and explain to you, why we upgraded from our 2014 Chevy and why we felt we needed this one and some of its features. But today we're going to focus on getting that cover. So let's get started.
Okay, so the cover came in 2 boxes. The long one here is the bed rails, and of course the other one has the canister with the cover in it. So let's get the rails out here. So I'm just checking it out. Feels nice and heavy. Here you can kind of see the flat top here. That other one would have had that T-track in here. So I like this cleaner line. It already has a foam gasket attached here. And there's a bristle wiper seal here in the top. That's all looking good. They seem to be the correct, let's just make sure they're the correct length. Yeah, I believe that's right. So I think they sent us the right one for the 8-foot bed. Let's get this out of the road here. And this box has RealTruck on it. I guess they're the manufacturer. I know RealTruck has their own website, and I had checked the price on RealTruck, and this TonneauCover.com had an even better price than we could get on RealTruck. It's assembled in North Dakota. I don't know where all the parts come from for it, but at least it's assembled in the United States. This is going to be the tubing. I think, from what I saw, there's drains in the bottom of the canister, so if it rains or you wash it and it gets water in the canister, these tubes will divert that water down through the bed of the truck so it doesn't get wet on the bed of the truck. So those are the drain tubes. These are the clamps that hold the rails onto the side bed rails. So this is supposed to be a no-drill installation. It should just sit right on the top of the bed rails. And then I think these are kind of the same clamps if you put a topper on or something like that. So these are aluminum clamps. So this, I think, is the back rail that goes onto the tailgate, or it comes out over top of the tailgate of the truck. This has a rubber wiper seal on here. Here again, nice heavy aluminum. And it looks like it has a real nice finish on. It has that matte black finish, which I think will go really well with our truck. So that's looking good. Our packing seems to be packed really well. They have nice foam around it here to hold it in place. Good heavy cardboard box. I'm going to try and take the side of the box off here. More packing. Not seeing any instructions yet, which I don't think it's that difficult to figure out, but okay. So they don't give you written installation instructions. There's a QR code here, and we'll have to go to that to get our installation instruction. All right, so I found the instructions online, which I think is great. That way they're not sending extra paper along. So it's going to be a couple-step process. I'm actually going to assemble it here on the floor, get the side rail screwed in place, and then we'll pick it up and set it on the bed of the truck. Here you can kind of see, I'm going to pull this packing strip out, which is wrapped around the cover down here in the canister to keep it from shaking and rattling around during transport. But here you can see, let me get this screw out, what I was talking about with the roller bearings here. Instead of sliding in a track, got to get this screw out. So hopefully you can see here, here's these roller bearings, and they're on each leaf of the cover. So I really like that a lot better than just these, sliding inside of a nylon slide. The end panels of the canister are plastic. They seem to be a relatively heavy plastic. I guess they're just kind of to hold things together. That is not aluminum. The cover itself here is aluminum. The rails are aluminum. The other sides of the canister are all metal, but it is this plastic end cap. So we're going to get things set up here. We'll get everything screwed together, and then we'll get it set on the bed of the truck. All right, so we had some video issues. Apparently it wasn't turned on. So all I had to do, there was 2 screws in from each side on the bed rail, and then there was another screw in from the top. I had to actually call for some help because now it's ready. That's all it takes, and now it's ready to lay on. Let's try not to drag it up over the side of the truck. You must set it down on the side there. Now, if you go up in the bed, Brian, I'll take this side. Or can you get it, Clay? You got it? It should sit right down in. Did you check the measurement?
No.
Now this wiper here needs to bend forward. Can we go forward and pull it back while that? All right. Thank you. All right, so as you saw there, I actually got some help to set this on, but my goodness, it's set right on. There's a rubber seal here in the front. That was probably the hardest part. We had to get that folded up over the front rail of the bed, but that seems to have gotten nice and tight up here. And you can come around here, Karen. We'll show you that from up front here. Come up here. So if you look up along, there she got it. So this rubber seal is laying right on the front rail of the bed. So I got to do a little adjusting here. All right, so we got to go to our instructions, but I would imagine the next thing we have to do is to get the clamps on. All right, so next step, this was that packing bracket that was in the end of the cover. They actually have this packing bracket. The thickness of it's 1/8 of an inch. I'm going to use that to set the rails the correct distance from the tailgate. So this is going to fit up in here against the tailgate, and that'll set that correct distance. And then I have the clamps to put on up the sides. So we're going to get to that. Okay. All right, so I had the rail set the correct distance front and back using that spacer against a tailgate. I'm going to look at my instructions here now, but I'm pretty sure the next step is to get the rails clamped down to the bed rail of the truck. So apparently, GM truck beds, the top rail isn't parallel. It gets narrower in the back, like significantly narrower. So if you look here, these are some nylon set screws so that when you clamp it down, it has something to go against. But you see how far the set screws are sticking out here. And then if you look at the middle one, they're not really out much at all. And then for the front ones, I actually had to make, let me get up here on the bed. I actually had to make spacers because those nylon adjustments weren't quite enough. They weren't long enough. I don't know if you can see it up under there or not. There you see I actually cut 3/4 inch PVC. So that's a 3/4 inch spacer in there just to get these nylon set screws to work. And you can kind of see it also if you look up along the bed rail. You know, you see how close it is here. And then if you follow it up, you know, here it's not as much of a spacing. So not sure why GM does that, but it's definitely narrower here at the back of the bed than at the front. All right, so we have this cover on, adjusted, works really well. I decided to not put the drain tubes in the canister in the front. A couple reasons, the biggest being that I wasn't quite ready to drill any holes through my new truck bed, which I would have had to drill into the sidewall to, hole to put these tubes in, one on each side. I'm not real concerned about a little bit of water getting into bed. I'm not, figuring on putting anything in here that could be damaged by water. Everything's going to be up. My toolboxes, none of that will hurt that. Also, we'll be driving quite a bit with the cover partially open, so we're going to get rain in there anyhow. There is a seal when the cover is fully closed. It comes up against the top of the canister and seals it off. So really, there isn't any way for water to get in the canister then. And when the cover's partially open, it's not going to matter anyhow because the bed's already open to the weather. So I'm going to keep these. It's possible I could install them at some point, but for now we're just going to put them aside. The cover has a covered lock here, has a little cover that opens and closes, and I'll give you a little closer up close about that, picture of that. There's a button here on the handle. You unlock it, you push a button and the handle pops up. And then this is all pretty much a one-handed operation. Very easy to open. And to close and lock. And then, what it looks like here with the tailgate up. This has a rubber seal in the back to seal that off. It looks great. Really pleased with the color of it. Matches all the other trim on the truck here. It's just a nice clean look. So let me show you some more details here. Let me open this up. All right, so here's that locking mechanism. Here's where your key goes in. That's the cover that closes over. Oh, let's snap down. That's the cover that closes over it. Pop that open. Here's this button in the middle. Push that and it pops up. Now, here's some of what I had to adjust. This cable, which here you can kind of see it right here, that's the cable that goes across to work the latch on the opposite side. And at first, it wasn't set tight enough. So here's the latch on the other side, this here. And so when I would close it and lock it, this arm goes up, and right here is a nylon stop, or it's a bolt with a nylon cover on it, and that goes up in front of that. So now you can't slide now the cover won't slide open, and that wasn't going up the whole way. So it took me a while to get that adjusted properly. And then the other thing is, you see here how it has this adjustment, this pin here, which screws in and out. And there's the same thing on the other side. This one's a little different. It's a bolt, but does the same thing here. So what that's for is when the cover is completely shut, these arms go up behind this nylon stop on both sides. So that's what keeps the cover from opening and locks it shut. But if you want to only open the cover part way, then what you do is set it to wherever you want to, however far open you want it. And then when you push the lock down on the other side, this pin goes up and kind of like digs into the bottom of the channel here. It's a super good way to do it, but I'm not sure how they could have did it any differently. So I'm afraid that as you're driving down the road, that it will maybe jiggle around and the cover will try to open a little bit. I may, when I get the toolboxes in, when I know how far open I want to let the cover, I might drill a hole up in the bottom of the aluminum extrusion here so that these pins actually have a hole to go into, and I'm thinking that might hold it a little better. I have to see about that a little later on. Here's a little better picture of what it looks like when it's on. I'm going to shut the tailgate here so that you can see what that looks like. Nice and tight here along the edge. Comes all the way to the front. Has this rubber gas or seal on the front. Here's where I was saying when the cover is shut, this has a gasket here. So this is all tight here, so really no water can get down in the canister. Here, I'll open the cover part way. And then if you push this down, now it's locked here, it won't move. However, now you got a little bit of a gap here. But it really doesn't matter if any water gets in there, because water is going to get in the back anyhow if you're driving through the rain. Let me open this the whole way. All right, so that wraps up this portion of the mods and additions to the truck. So thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope you gained something valuable out of it. If you did, please subscribe and like. No problem for you, but it'll really help us out. So until the next one, have a great day.